we should be live. Are we live on air? You guys excited? Are we live on air?
I guess we are.
Says we're live.
This is intense, boys.
Yep.
Hold on to your seats. So we are broadcasting the first of hopefully a series of videos from the resident cineasts of Twitter. Yes, the resident cinema experts. You were like, you heard us talk about Nietzsche. Like, God, those guys know everything about Nietzsche. I can't believe how smart they are. Well, you didn't even know that we're also experts on cinema, most particularly Stanley Kubrick. But we also have expertise on a whole bunch of other famous directors. So if you have any important questions, let us know. But we're going to start the broadcast. Why don't you guys introduce yourself, Mr. Injin?
I am HistoryNet, but also on Twitter I go by Sparky.
Hi, I'm John. I've been interacting with Craig here on this channel for a little bit. Just trying to interact with the community more. And I quite enjoy movies. And watched a few of Kubrick's movies for the first time just within the last couple of days, so that was great.
Yeah, preparing for our broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Doing my homework.
So let's fire up the grill, John. What did you discover in your research into Stanley Kubrick? You watched them?
Yeah. So I've seen probably about 5 out of his 12 movies, or maybe he has a couple more than that. And it's surprising how, I guess, diverse. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's a specific director kind of influence within each of the movies. I don't know. Maybe I haven't watched them enough to get that. I guess director flair that you get with some directors. Like you can obviously tell a Quentin Tarantino film because they're all have that style. Whereas Kubrick, I don't know, the difference between Paths of Glory and say something like The Shining, it's very hard to tell the I guess connection between the two as a director, which I always find fascinating. When directors are kind of get immersed within whatever genre that they're actually playing within. That I enjoy.
And of course, you've seen his magnum opus, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Now, is that the best sci-fi movie ever made?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
It's kind of the one that really put sci-fi on the map. Probably.
Yeah, it's sci-fi meets philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because a lot of sci-fi now is trying to meld those two together quite a bit more, which is great.
A lot of the classics were also influenced by this, such as Close Encounters and Star Wars and Alien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the special effects in 2001 was very much cutting edge for the time, and being
Absolutely.
able to.
The special effects were incredible enough for outer space, but the depiction of AI is also what really stands out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with Kubrick. He definitely takes certain concepts and really extrapolates on them quite a bit to make it's something that you wouldn't have normally thought about at all. Especially with HAL 9000 and kind of having an AI that doesn't have any sort of human connection and human subjectivity and human kind of human sentimentality, anything like that. Kind of an extreme Spock character that has no is perfectly logical, and even to the point where you have no idea how far he's going to go in his logic in order to kill the very people that he was supposed to be protecting.
All right, for those who don't know, 2001 features an AI called HAL 9000, a highly advanced computer that controls an exploration spacecraft and converse with people and even play chess. Hal is given secret orders that not even the ship captain knows about. Naturally, he's not allowed to divulge them into the crew, and the stress of it causes Hal to crack, go crazy, even though there are those who interpret it differently. So, and one by one, Hal kills off the crew until the captain finally shuts it down.
Mm-hmm. Craig?
Yeah, John, did you say you watched Paths of Glory for this too?
Yeah, I watched Paths of Glory too. I actually just finished it like 5 minutes before getting into this. That's a really good one too. It's I guess that was like his first feature length film, I think, right?
No, his first feature length is a movie called The Killing. It's actually really good. It's like I think that's his first movie. It's a B movie. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever seen like, not necessarily The Maltese Falcon, because that's an absolute classic, but it's one of these really, really taut, well-made B movies that's like kind of a genre movie, but it's really fun because it's really well done. I don't know, there's a bunch from the 50s of those like film noir, like Dial M for Murder, Double Indemnity, those type of things.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out too then.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's not great, but you can tell that it's like one of those movies where everyone was really excited because it was really obvious that this was a talented director, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paths of Glory was probably the first. That was probably the first movie that put him on the map in terms of a reputation. Kirk Douglas starred in that, and that was I think that's the best war movie ever made. I don't know if you necessarily agree with that. Did you see Saving Private Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Either of you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's close. The first half hour of Saving Private Ryan is probably the best war sequence ever filmed. But, you know, the rest of the movie isn't necessarily all that great.
Yeah.
My favorite war movie is The Great Escape. Where
The Great Escape. That's
where POWs are in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany, and they try to escape. Most of the movies them planning to escape. It's like one of those movies that proves that it can be really exciting. The act of not being seen is exciting.
Mm. Yeah, I love those types of like set up a plan and then fill out the plan. Those types of movies. Those are all great.
Yeah, that's like a classic like fun action flick from the 60s. Yeah, like exactly. The Magnificent Seven or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a fistful of dollars, and
but with Paths of Glory, it's kind of great because like the first, it kind of like goes through many different kind of components of war, because like it goes into what it feels like and kind of like they're out in the battlefield, what it's like kind of there in the bunkers, like strategizing and planning and like how to deal with your soldiers and things like that. And then like also goes into kind of the politics within being generals, and like sets up this kind of like stressful questioning of like what's going to be done about these three characters that are just put up in order to kind of be the sacrificed sheep,
right,
in order to
it's sort of the undercurrent of it's really anti-authoritarian, like the military is just going to sell out these guys to
it really kind of brings in the point of like what types of sacrifices are needed to in order to have like a strong I guess army, and like whether or not these types of sacrifices are actually needed, or if there's just people kind of covering their own asses in order to retain their power and their status, really.
Oh, and another really good one you had to have seen, Dr. Strangelove, or how I learned to stop worrying and loved the bomb.
Yeah. That's a great like political comedy. That is so like
about the absurdities of and
it's such a great concept too. Such a great concept too. Like this kind of crazy general takes over an entire fort, and like he's got the entire like nuclear codes all on hand. It's like this is like the high level stress scenario where like anything that could go wrong could like set off World War III. It's just so great.
That when we were talking about this on Twitter, I'd completely forgotten about that movie. Like there's that and Lolita and actually Spartacus. Because what sparked the idea for this is I forget who we were talking to, Injin, but we were talking to some atheist dude on Twitter about the Kubrick films, who was like a total Kubrick head.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I'd completely forgotten about Strangelove and Lolita.
How could we forget Strangelove?
I know. When we were talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like, you know, because his film career is so long that there's like total classic movies from, you know, way back in the 60s that you just hadn't thought about in a long time. Now, what about Clockwork Orange? You mentioned that you thought Clockwork Orange was, quote, weird. That's what you said, right? Injin.
Do what?
You said Clockwork Orange was weird. Too weird? Is that what you said?
Oh, Clockwork. Yeah. Yeah, that was just absolutely bizarre. It seemed stupid at face value, but then you just like I get the concept, like about it was telling about the future, like the then future, the 90s or something. Then where degeneracy is rampant, and it's just, you know what, I forgot.
Yeah, dystopian.
Huh?
It was actually plausibly dystopian too. That's the thing about it that was interesting. Like, you know, it wasn't that far removed. Like when I was watching that in the 80s, it wasn't necessarily a given that by this year the world wouldn't be exactly as it said in Clockwork Orange. You know, it was definitely plausibly dystopian.
Well, similar to what it is now, but not that similar.
Right, just not that far along. Yeah. Not as far along in the pure evil department. That was a movie in high school. That movie was like for like a period of about 5 months. Every time you go to somebody's house, that was the agenda. We'd smoke weed and go, well, what do you want to do? Okay, let's watch Clockwork Orange. We watch it like
that's a movie to watch when you're high on weed.
Yeah.
And the guy that played in it starred as Caligula.
Yeah, that performance in that is brilliant. That's like solidifies the film.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so incredible.
Yeah, there's something interesting I don't know, either took out of it or noticed from it in watching it. Is there's kind of this theme in regards to his character as kind of someone who's kind of in a state of arrested development, where he's always kind of that infantile, and it's like kind of expressed through the language he uses as a narrator, like talking about things in kind of a babyish way, or like dole in out in regards to sex and also
not love. Just come to read the meter.
He's supposed to be the worst He's supposed to be the worst person imaginable, but then you eventually feel sorry for him later on when he's betrayed by his friends and forgotten.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I don't know, there's an element to it too. Like when you first watch it, and like he's part of this gang, and then to find out that he still lives at home with his parents that are quite old, and it's like there's an element of like questioning whether or not this is him, or also partially due to how
society. Society, man.
I also love that futuristic furniture they have in there and in 2001. You know, with the shiny white rooms and the red cushions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
also there's two things about Clockwork. The arc, the redemptive arc of the story is that he reverts back to being evil, like gleefully evil. That's the redemptive arc. Like they train him to be good by vomiting every time, you know, he contemplates evil or can't. And then the end of the story, they make him back to being, you know, enjoying his evil. So that's redemption. That's good. That's positive. And then the other thing, the real brilliant thing of the movie is how they use Beethoven and how they use the classical music and his love of Beethoven. Like that was brought up again in, what's that movie with There's a movie with the assassin or something like that with Gary Oldman, where he loves Beethoven. And
Oh, is that the assassin? Is that the one with Natalie Portman as the young child?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the name of that?
Oh,
What is it?
I'm trying to remember. It's something kind of like boring. First.
Yeah, it's something like the assassin. That's kind of referencing the Clockwork
Leon the Professional. That's it.
Yes, the Professional.
Oh yeah. Leon the Professional is one of those that, along with 2001: Space Odyssey, influenced Lucy. You saw that one?
Oh yeah. Leon the Professional is much better though, I think.
Yeah, but I like Lucy, but it just flies off the rails.
Yeah, it does.
And the dazzling visuals and the concept I love, but it just way flies off on itself.
Mm.
By the way, before I forget, John, there's a movie, Children of Men, on Netflix.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's very related to your writing, correct? Or no?
Yeah, probably. That movie is so depressing. Just
what is
Children of Men? It's like set in a dystopian future where everyone has gone infertile, and so there's no children at all anymore, and it's just kind of like people kind of waiting out for society to collapse.
No more depressing than 1984.
Yeah.
I guess there's a glimmer of hope in Children of Men, but it's kind of about trying to help protect the only pregnant woman that's alive currently, and but yeah, 1984 just kind of takes everything out of you.
What I also love about 2001: Space Odyssey and Dr. Strangelove is that they both had the most influence on the Metal Gear Solid series.
I haven't ever played any of that.
Oh my god, please do.
What is it? Gaming? What's it called?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid.
Mel Gibson Solid? That doesn't sound like a fun game.
Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear.
Oh, Metal Gear Solid. Oh, okay. Don't know it. What's the premise of the game?
Okay, you should have known about this, but first one, you're sent on a black op. You're sent to Alaska to stop a nuclear walking tank, a new concept they had, and it launches from launching a nuclear weapon from turning the world into a nuclear holocaust. And the rest of the series goes deep into philosophy, the nature of reality, and stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds cool. And it's a game? Is it? You kill things? Do you blow stuff up?
Yeah, you.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, it's a stealth games.
Mm-hmm. And the main character in that, he kind of takes after the character from Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Yeah, Snake. Kind of like.
Well, actually, he has more similarities with Jean-Claude Van Damme and the Deer Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Escape from New York is one of those disappointing classics. I
thought.
I think that you're the premise, and it's supposed to be like The Warriors. It's supposed to be this phenomenal cult movie that's just so fun and awesome. So I thought it was going to be like Warriors, and it's not.
It is kind of fun, but it's not. It's too. I don't know the word for it, but basically you have all the worst criminals in the world in the then future, the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That New York and Manhattan was supposed to be this maximum security prison for all the worst criminals in the world, so they can just run rampant and do whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just it doesn't have that kind of sense of fun that I guess you might want from such a interesting concept.
Yeah, well, based on the premise, you would think it'd be the best movie ever made, like the best B movie. Where you're like, oh my god, that sounds absolutely phenomenal. And then when you watch it, it's not as fun as the premise. It's like, I don't know, maybe Godzilla, the one that was in the theater recently. On paper,
that one wasn't bad.
What's that?
That wasn't bad. The recent Godzilla, but the one in the late 90s I liked also. But it's a good monster movie if you pretend it's not Godzilla, because it's not. It doesn't act anything like Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
The 90s one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just on paper, okay? A movie like the original Godzilla from the 50s. It's just a monster attacking the city that's, you know, a big giant reptile that breathes fire. You really can't go wrong.
Yeah, but wait. It's also the original Godzilla was an allegory for the horrors of nuclear war embodied in this huge monster who's immune from atomic attacks and stuff like that. As a response for the Hiroshima bomb in World War II, it's Japanese.
Right. I'm just saying conceptually, the movie, something like Escape from New York is so, the idea of it is so perfect that you would think that it'd be really easy, like Godzilla, for them to just make it wildly entertaining without having to work very hard. And they did. You know, that's all I'm saying. Like, the premise is so rich with possibilities for being fun.
You know, some people think that way about 2001. Well, it's very slow paced and doesn't appear to be this. It is a grand epic movie, but it's not really. I don't know the word for it, but it's very slow paced.
Yeah, it kind of like, I don't know. It's our modern ADHD kind of mentality in watching movies nowadays. It makes it very hard to kind of get into, especially if you're not like familiar and used to those types of movies that have that pacing.
It's supposed to be cerebral, and it's a movie that's designed to like be long and speculative and make you think. And if you're not on the same page as the director, you won't like it. You know, if you're going expecting Star Wars, you're going to be like, what on earth is this? People, when are they going to blow the planet up? This is really tedious. But it's supposed to be like that, you know. It's for some people, it's the penultimate, it's the best sci-fi movie ever made.
That's what I felt about watching E.T. also. That's like I mean, I can see why kids would like it, but it's one of the most overrated movies of all time, in my opinion. I found Close Encounters with the Third Kind to be more.
Close Encounters is so gripping with it. Yeah, just like
E.T., you just got this this adorable alien and these kids, and just I don't get the appeal.
Yeah, with Close Encounters, there's like the government and like freaking out, like no idea, like what's gonna happen, like what's actually there on the mountain.
And the main character goes insane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like him tearing his life apart because of this thing that happened to him, and like he doesn't know what to do, and he can't help himself.
Spielberg is also another classic director.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think like Spielberg also like was heavily influenced by Kubrick also. I think Spielberg is kind of like the audience, like a Kubrick that actually is trying to be entertaining for the entire audience instead of like, I don't know, if Kubrick is only interested in having an intellectual fan base or something like that. But Steven Spielberg, he knows how to make a great like adventure film that's just anybody can really enjoy.
Yeah, like Jaws and Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all the Indiana Jones movies and
how could I forget Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
The first Raiders of the Lost Ark I actually saw in the movie theater, and it's hard to downplay how revolutionary it seemed at the time, because you never saw a movie that was like that in your face right from the start, you know, where he's like in the what is he looking for? That statue in the beginning. It starts off, you're right in the midst of it with these contraptions and stuff, and he's being chased by the boulder, and like before even the credits, practically. That had never happened before. So you weren't used to movies being like that much of a roller coaster ride right out of the starting gate. And it was really, you were like, oh my God, you were like practically like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
What kind of somewhat ruined it for me is seeing The Mummy first. The Mummy Returns.
I don't know that.
The Brendan Fraser one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good fun like B movie too. Also,
I wouldn't call it B movie, but
well, I don't know. Is I don't know. It doesn't, I guess, have that iconic kind of status, but it is a really great movie. I like really fun movie, and
I did see that one. That I saw that at a hotel with my wife. That's like, yeah, did not even do well. I don't remember if that was successful or not.
Yeah, fairly successful.
Yeah. Enough to make a couple or a sequel, and then like another sequel like 10 or 15 years later. But,
like it wasn't as big as Raiders of the Lost Ark because that came first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Raiders of the Lost Ark totally changed the way movies were. Totally changed the whole idea of movies, basically.
And it influenced Tomb Raider and Uncharted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like Raiders of the Lost Ark is kind of the origin for PG-13 movies, actually. So like actually kind of creating this new audience market for kind of in between G and also rated R movies. So that
was the next one, the Temple of Doom.
Oh, okay, yeah. Which isn't as good, I think, compared to the first or the third one, really. But
I forgot where I was going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
That was revolutionary also, with the special effects, with the actual dinosaurs coming back to life. Like the poster, the premise says 65 million years in the making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the special effects in Jurassic Park are still probably better than a lot of the like CG things that are always done in recent movies. Just because I guess with the like heavy puppeteering and then like actual making the things in the same lighting and in the same environment as the actors, I don't know. It feels so much more alive than a lot of the recent Jurassic World movies, which definitely have like greater special effects, but it doesn't have that sense of real danger. I think. Of course,
I like the Jurassic World, where the concept of that theme park came alive and people were actually enjoying it, but then all hell broke loose eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Jurassic World was decent actually. Not the last one. The last one was kind of awful, but the
I like them all.
I kind of half like them all. I mean, I when you're going to see a Jurassic Park movie, you got to set your expectations appropriately to the type of movie you're trying to see, and then you'll have a good time in it. But even the last one was a little bit, because it all takes place in a house at the end.
Half of it does.
Right. That got to be a little bit like, God, couldn't you guys have been a little bit creative with,
Well, it does get creative at the end, where the dinosaurs are unleashed throughout the world.
Yes, that's potentially brilliant. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's like potentially a fantastic concept that the movie should have no trouble being fun, that the dinosaurs are unleashed all over the world. That could be great.
Then there's the last 20 minutes or so of the Lost World Jurassic Park, where the T-Rex is let loose throughout San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not bad. Definitely not bad.
Yeah.
Definitely good.
But it didn't last very long, which kind of bummer.
So I want to kind of get a reading for both of you guys. What would you say is probably one of your favorite like directors? Like if you were to pick only one director to watch their, like you could only watch whatever was within their filmography, like who would you pick?
Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese. Okay.
I would probably say Scorsese too, actually.
Okay, I gotcha.
Classic like Goodfellas and Casino.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, the other directors, there are other directors whose movies I like as much, but then there's a whole bunch of movies that they do that aren't really, that don't make any difference to me at all. Mm-hmm. Like I would say Coppola, but Coppola's got like 10 movies that I could care less about, at least, or whatever. I don't know how many there are, but he's got a whole bunch of movies that some I haven't even watched.
The only ones worth watching are the Godfather series.
Right. And the first part of the first half hour of Apocalypse Now or something like that.
That movie's overrated in my opinion.
Well, the whole movie is overrated, but the first 40 minutes is fantastic. The first where they're fighting in the war, the scenes with like Robert Duvall on the beach and stuff like that is brilliant. And then when they get to the river and it starts becoming Heart of Darkness, it gets really tiring. Yeah, that part's overrated. Possibly Spielberg. I don't know, John. What's your answer? What's the right answer, John? You tell us.
It's for each individual person.
There's no wrong answers, John. It's all
either Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino.
That's
I would agree.
Too. Yeah. For myself, probably.
Don't say Robert Zemeckis.
Nope,
don't say.
I'm gonna say it. Yeah, his movies. I don't know, just like highly influenced my personality. So it's like most of his movies were like highly influential for just me and enjoying that medium. And so like it's kind of like it's not so much like he's my favorite director, but like because of his movies, am I actually like interested in movies and things like that. So I guess kind of have to say Robert Zemeckis.
I said, don't say Rod.
I'm sorry.
Don't say Ridley Scott.
Saying it. I said, don't say Robert Zemeckis.
Why'd you say that, Greg?
Do you think I influenced him? Is reverse psychology? I felt pressured to pull down on a not that great director.
Also, don't say Ridley Scott either.
Nah, I haven't seen much of his.
He's a good director, but his historical movies are terrible.
Except fun. Gladiator was.
Yeah, except Gladiator. That was a classic.
He did that Noah one, didn't he? Right?
Huh?
Was that Ridley Scott that did that Noah one recently with?
Yeah. No. Wait. That wasn't him.
Or maybe he did the God.
That was the Exodus.
Exodus. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even bother seeing that just because.
There's nothing you'll see in that you haven't seen in the Ten Commandments or Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, Ten Commandments. That's like probably the best Bible movie out there, really. And it's one of those movies that isn't like only good for people that are interested in the Bible or anything like that. It feels like
it's one of those movies you can watch 5 times in a row and still not get tired of.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking the standard, the Cecil B. DeMille one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Charlton Heston. Yeah.
That and Ben-Hur and Quo Vadis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are up there, definitely. That's kind of what Spartacus, when Kubrick made Spartacus, it was along those veins of like a sword and sandal epic, right?
I like that one too. They don't make movies like that anymore.
At least,
that was a whole subgenre of 50s film of like the big like desert spectacle.
Yeah, like Lawrence of Arabia and
yeah.
I wonder why. I guess it's just no longer part of the cultural interest.
And Muhammad Messenger of God was also good.
I haven't seen that.
Didn't see that either. Who's that?
It's about Muhammad.
Oh,
the founder of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Although they sugarcoat it a lot, but you'll find that movie enjoyable. Kind of like that, along with the biblical epics.
Yeah, no, nowadays they don't. They tried, and a couple of them bombed, right? I mean, the one that you mentioned was fairly recent, wasn't it?
And then there's those controversial ones that are good, like The Last Temptation of Christ by Scorsese before he started making mafia movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's all that good. It's interesting, but it's not that great.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's not like Goodfellas or Casino or Wolf of Wall Street good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not what you think of when you think of Scorsese. When you say like Scorsese, you're talking about Taxi Driver, Goodfellas.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
even The Departed. The Departed is actually really good.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
I like Taxi Driver.
That's like one of your favorite movies, isn't it, Greg?
Taxi Driver, yeah.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver and Godfather are probably my 2 favorite movies. Probably pretty easily, I would say.
Nothing beats Godfather.
Yeah, nothing does. Godfather is just fantastic through and through.
But it's more operatic, and Goodfellas and Casino show the more realistic side of the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
But Godfather is still superb.
What were you going to ask, John?
No, that was it about Taxi Driver, right? I guess.
Taxi Driver is like, the whole thing. It's a lot of it is that pairing of Robert De Niro with Scorsese, and the performance. The performance in and of itself is like such a great acting performance that it tells 80% of the story of just this, like, brings you so into that guy's head.
Yeah.
That's a big, huge. But that was Paul Schrader too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Paul Schrader wrote that.
And the guy that we can all relate to, this guy who's feel like he's alone in the world, feel like he's the only sane person in the world that has it all together, and feels like the world's against him.
Mm-hmm. Plus, with the like background of like seedy New York in the 70s.
Yeah, see, New York in the 70s is like the third character in a lot of those films. And it was actually like that. I vividly remember New York in those years because, you'd go through Times Square and it was scary. It really was. It was really like in your face, and you felt like you could be jumped at any time. I mean, it was out of control till about 83 or 84. So I remember going through Times Square in high school.
Even then it was crazy.
Yeah. What's that? Even
then it was crazy.
Right, till about then. It started to get a little bit safer around like 87 or something. But like, I remember I was walking with my friend once. I think we're in 9th or 10th grade around 42nd Street, Times Square. And he was like, do you realize this is the most dangerous urban street in the entire world? There's more people driving than anywhere else in the world. And you could tell. You'd get messed with every single time you walk there. Someone would be like, hey, what's up? You're like, nothing. I mean, you could feel it. If you walked around in Times Square, you could feel the air of danger. Now it feels like Disneyland. Honestly, it's totally different. But back then, it felt exactly like Taxi Driver. It totally captures like that city on the verge of collapse feel.
Yeah, and it kind of makes his character more interesting because, like, with Clockwork Orange, the character is just kind of like evil and depraved, while the rest of the city is just kind of like, more
or less the same.
Yeah, but it's not like the entire city is exactly depraved in Clockwork Orange. It feels more like they're just sanitary, like they're all just kind of secluded and off by themselves and kind of delusional, and they're, I don't know. A lot of Clockwork Orange reminded me of like Brave New World, especially with kind of its main concept of like behaviorally reinforcing people in order to get them to have a certain personality that you want.
I'm sure it influenced him, the actual writer. It was a pretty well-known book, and I'm relatively certain that would have been a main influence on the book itself. So yeah, that's probably a real thing you're picking up on,
Yeah, but that concept though is, I guess what kind of like really stuck with me, because like first, like it feels like he as an evil character is kind of just a manifestation of like what's wrong with this society, where like, there's nothing at all to do, and like everything is just so safe and everything like that, and it kind of makes it so like the only thing that young kids that are kind of rebellious will want to do is, in order to kind of like put that into a topspin somehow, and then like from that, like whether or not you could essentially, I guess, train somebody to not be evil, and whether or not that's like a moral thing that you should be doing. Because that's like one of the main questions that they have, is like the one like religious person in there is kind of like questioning whether or not taking away somebody's free choice to be evil makes them a good person or not.
Right. Well, that's why I said it's a redemptive story arc, because he goes back to being delighted in evil at the end of the movie, and you're supposed to be like, oh, good, he's healed, he's cured.
Yeah.
For anybody like those, there's also those like Doctor Strangelove, there's those black and white movies, that modern black and white movies that get that you start to like.
Yeah, there's like an element of, I guess it kind of makes you less interested in what the visuals are, and so it makes you more interested in like what's actually happening with the story.
I mean, black and white was still pretty standard during the Doctor Strangelove's time, but even black and white movies after that are really good, like Clerks.
Clerks I never saw, actually.
Oh my! Watch it now on Netflix after the stream.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest classics of the '90s.
Yeah, I guess I don't like those kind of like ultra realism type movies where it's just kind of like I don't know. Feels like you could just get this from watching like I don't know, just people that just recorded their own conversations with each other. But that's true. I haven't finished Clerks, so I don't know. Maybe it gets better, but it might just be not quite to my taste. I don't know.
Oh, you don't like it? You is it really on Netflix? Did you watch it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
And you'd be hard pressed to find classics on Netflix nowadays.
Yeah.
No, I always watch those. They have these videos on YouTube of like the 10 best movies on Netflix, or the 10 best sci-fi, and I always check those out. And the ones that they always mention are Schindler's List and Children of Men, actually. And now Roma. Roma will probably win Best Picture. I haven't seen it yet, but my wife told me my wife says it's great. I don't know. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't even heard of that. What's it about?
It's the same guy who directed Children of Men. Cuarón is his name, or Alfonso. I forget his actual name.
Alfonso Cuarón, looks like.
Yes. What's it about? I'm not 100% sure. I think it's a coming of age in Mexico City in his youth, loosely biographical.
Okay. And it's another one of those black and white modern movies. I see.
Yeah. She said it's great, and her taste in movies is usually spot on. She didn't like Aquaman. She didn't like Aquaman, but
I like Wonder Woman better.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was a lot better than Aquaman. Oh my God, there's no comparison. But Aquaman, I thought was better than I thought it would be. That's for sure.
Yeah, Aquaman was definitely better than Justice League or Suicide Squad. It just
better than Dark Knight.
Not better than The Dark Knight. No.
No. Very few superhero movies are better than Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I also love the X-Men prequels.
Especially the second one. The second one's like a real fun one. I
like First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse.
Oh, the prequels. Oh, yeah. I thought, yeah. I haven't seen Apocalypse yet, actually.
No, that one's in the 80s, and there's this sort of mutant, the first mutant ever with a god complex. Lives in like before the Bronze Age. Then he's entombed. Although Egypt back then looked nothing like it did in the movie, but still he's entombed for all that time, and then reawakens in the early 80s and starts trying to he adapts to the new world rather quickly with his abilities, and yeah, you should see it.
Cool. Yeah, I think that might be on Netflix. I don't know. I thought I remember seeing something like that. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Roma is definitely on Netflix, though, John. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just haven't brought myself around to it. But no, Wonder Woman was the best of the DC by far. Yeah. And what were the other two you mentioned? The Suicide Squad is awful. I kind of liked it, but it's awful. I enjoyed it just because of what's her face, Harley Quinn. I thought she was fun, so I got a kick out of the movie, but it's a terrible movie. Justice League is better than I thought it would be. Actually, I thought it was okay. I mean, it's not good, but it's not absolute. But I didn't see it in the movie theater. That makes a really big difference.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sure that.
Well, it's a lot easier to like a bad movie when you're watching it on like either HBO or Netflix, and you're watching in the comfort of your own home, and you can pause it when you get bored, go get something to eat. You're a lot more forgiving than if you're sitting in the movie for 2.5 hours and like, God, this is awful. Why am I here?
Yeah,
All it
because
has
then
to
I
do
guess
is
you're kind of like
what-
forced to be there. Whereas like if you're watching a movie on your own voluntary will, like you can tap out at any time. It's probably makes it a lot more forgiving.
You know,
Yeah,
another classic, one of the most important sci-fi movies of all time, besides 2001, and that takes place during this year.
what's that?
Blade Runner.
Oh, Blade Runner. Yeah.
You know, I've
Did you
never
see,
actually seen the original.
Did you see the new one?
I did see the
2049?
new one.
Nah, that was just inferior compared to the original. Like back then, they thought the future was gonna be
Mhm.
be all high tech and full of neon skyscrapers and hover cars, like it should be. But
Mhm.
we're still stuck in this cultural wasteland.
Yeah, like it should be. If we had gotten our act together, we could be living in Blade Runner for real.
And that culture's like American Japanese culture
Yeah.
got mixed together.
Yeah, that was interesting. Cause there's kind of a similar thing with that Big Hero 6, the kids movie, like San Francisco. But like that, for that time, it is definitely interesting. Like how like imagining the only two like or the most primary cultures would be Asian and then American, and then those just kind of blended together into some sort of
Another good director you probably haven't seen much of his movies, John Woo.
Oh yeah, John Woo's
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's fun. Like the face, was it Face Off? That's John Woo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun.
and
very fun movie.
yeah, Hard Boiled, and what was that other movie?
The Killer.
The
The Killer is the classic. That's a classic film. That's so out of control brilliant. That was the last movie I think he made in Hong Kong before he signed up to do Hollywood movies. He made a terrible like Hollywood film before Face Off. I think it's called Broken Arrow. I think that's him.
Mhm.
But The Killer was back. What made his reputation is he has these ultra violent Hong Kong action flicks, and The Killer is fantastic. That's the one that like I was obsessed with him for a while because that movie is so spot on. It's like
Cool.
it's kind of like what's his face, Quentin Tarantino, in that it's like ridiculously violent, like ultra violent, like and he uses like killings as punchlines and stuff.
But yeah, Better Tomorrow. That's another good one.
Yeah, all those movies are great. Those Hong Kong. He does a weird thing that's really interesting where he superimposes ultra violence with like religious imagery as a way of I don't know. It's like his signature style in his Hong Kong gunfights.
That's one of the reasons he had to leave, because he was a Christian.
Right.
He had to leave China and then came to America.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't just for that reason though, but
yeah. Well, there was a lot of like Hong Kong directors and actors that went over to Hollywood.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, that was the only way you could become successful. I think that's changing in terms of, name recognition and money. Like, I don't know if that's changing or not, but I think it is. Like, nowadays there is like a Chinese film market and an Indian they make more movies than we do. But back in like the early 90s, I don't think you could ever actually be considered successful unless you started making movies here.
That was back when Jackie Chan was becoming the new Bruce Lee.
Right. And then he came over here and made there's a whole bunch of his movies that are supposedly really good that I haven't watched that are supposed to be fun.
Rush Hour was good.
One of his Hong Kong movies too, the Drunken Master. I think there's like two of them actually, but they're both pretty good. Yeah.
Are they good? Because they're on Netflix, I think, or maybe it's Hulu or something.
Yeah, I think one of them is actually on Netflix, and I think the one that's on Netflix is there's two versions. I think like the Hong Kong version and then the Hollywood version, and then the Hollywood version is just basically a remake of the pretty much shot for shot. I don't. It's been a while since seen the two of them, but they're both they're both pretty good. But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about them a lot. Like they kind of made his reputation as they're supposed to be kind of classics or cult classics. classics or something like that.
Yeah, Jackie Chan's like style of the comedy fighting. It is something so unique to him that I love. And, like kind of like working with props in order to just do unique stunts and things like that.
Right. Yeah, it was fun. He did this thing on what I said. I think it was on Letterman, back when Letterman was on it late at night, where he like broke all these glasses on the top of the chair, on the top of the table while sitting in his chair with his feet. He's like, one more, kick it off the chair. One more, and kick it off the chair. It's like great.
Yeah, but Hong Kong action cinema, along with those classic anime movies like Akira and Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, Matrix has a lot of inspiring.
Matrix, yeah, that's one of the kind of like staple movies that kind of changed or like held up as an icon for the generation, like 1999. That and probably like Fight Club, and a couple others.
What did you say?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Fight Club.
Oh, that movie was so fucking overrated.
Really? I think it was kind of like ruined for me, I think, because I knew the twist prior to actually seeing it. So, but it almost like made it so like I was watching, because like for those twist movies, you'll like want to watch it again.
Oh yeah. There's a Sixth Sense and Usual Suspects.
Yeah. There's quite a few like that, and a lot of them. Like if you have any like cultural connection with like Simpsons or Family Guy or anything like that, all these twists are already going to be spoiled for you anyway. So like a lot of times you'll know the spoiler before you actually see the movie, and then it kind of like takes away some of the intrigue from it.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing when you see Usual Suspects and Seven for the first time.
Seven's great. Who did Seven? That was
I don't know.
I really like that director though.
It was
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of it. Every single one of those movies, The Sixth Sense, The Matrix, the Suspects, I saw those all in the theater before.
David Fincher, that's right. Sorry.
And Fight Club.
Couldn't imagine what it's like seeing Matrix in the theater.
Oh, it was fantastic. I saw it with my wife, and where did we see? We saw it in Connecticut before we moved out to California, and it was like, for a while, that movie was like it's hard to explain seeing that firsthand without having any hype.
Yeah.
Like no preparation, because we would see movies almost as soon as they came out. So we'd see a lot. We'd see like a movie, almost everything that came out those years. So we had nobody said this is the greatest thing you're going to see, or this is so interesting, or you won't believe it when he takes the red pill. We had none of that preparation.
Yeah, I think
there's also a movie that came alongside it that was mostly forgotten. Is 13th Floor. You didn't see that one? It was a similar concept, like a virtual reality. And The Sixth Sense, I like that one, but I thought Stir of Echoes was a hell of a lot better.
You thought what? To Serve with Love? What was better?
Stir of Echoes.
Didn't see it. Stir of Echoes. But the even Fight Club, the twist in that you have I remember it's really, really, Sixth Sense and Fight Club were both really like, they threw you completely in the movie theater because you had no idea in Fight Club. I had no clue until the twist comes. Ditto for Usual Suspects.
Yeah, Usual Suspects was really good. Kaiser Soze. You start getting the hint when Spacey walks out of the police station and loses his limb.
That's at the end though, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like that's when the
and at the end of 7, where you just start getting this. At the end, you start getting this feeling something's not right. Then it turns out his wife's head is in a cardboard box.
Yeah, 7 was. That's another one of those movies that is kind of hard to get through. It has a lot of that grimy feel that you kind of get from watching it. I guess it's part of the aesthetic, kind of like with Children of Men and Taxi Driver and things like that.
Children of Men is kind of like it was sort of like a Hunger Games meets an art house flick. Like it's all dystopian, cool sets and stuff like that, but it was all for artistic effect, which is actually I thought was kind of good. That's what I liked about it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, another '90s classic was Scream.
Oh yeah, they kind of put the horror comedy into the front seat.
That's a rare achievement to do a horror and comedy together, like Drag Me to Hell.
I didn't know that was a comedy.
No, it was hilarious, but it was also freaky at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really underrated like genre, that kind of horror comedy, because there's a lot of really like great ones too. Just
Scream also references all the old classic horror movies like Psycho, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th.
Right, and it makes fun of all the cliches of the slasher flicks and stuff.
Then the second one was also making fun of the cliche of the sequels being either better or superior or inferior to the originals.
I'm not sure if I saw any of the sequels. Are they good? Are they worth checking out?
Yeah, the second one is at least.
Pretty sure I never saw them. All right, so John, what's your analysis of Kubrick? You're the only one who did a study for the live stream. Is he in the pantheon of great directors? If you were on a desert island and you could only watch Stanley Kubrick for the next 100 years, would you be okay, or would you be like, oh, good, I get to watch?
Or would I kill myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, there's definitely like to his movies, there's high rewatchability to them. Because like I remember I watched what was it, the Shining, and then like watched it again like a month or so, or maybe it was like 2 months later with my little sister who hadn't seen it before, and it's still one of those things that is, I don't know what it is about it, but it was it's not like everything just is the same thing over again. It's like you can get back into the feeling, I guess, of the what's happening in the story and get more out of it too, I guess. Plus, I know with the Shining, there's a lot of like hidden Easter eggs and like different things that people interpret as Easter eggs. That there's this like documentary called Room 237 that just goes into all of that, and like a lot of it is like kind of reaching with like all these secret things that Kubrick put into the movie as like secret messages to his audience. Like there's a whole like a good third of that documentary is just about how
Kubrick, you're talking about Room 237, right? The documentary.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Where is that? Is that on like Hulu or something?
I think I remember watching it on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but I think that's where it was. But like a lot of it kind of goes into these conspiracy theories on Kubrick, like laying out messages to his audience about how he faked the moon landing. Like he actually directed the moon landing.
I got a joke for the fake moonlanders.
Yeah.
For shooting 2001, it turned out the budget was too big and all of his expenses got in the way, so he had to shoot on location.
I mean, he's such a great director. I wouldn't put it past him, really. But yeah, The Shining's like probably that's the thing with Kubrick. Like he really picks out his main actors and then focuses the movie just on their performance, and that's what really makes the movie is and
Dr. Strangelove, where the three of the main characters were played by Peter Sellers.
Right. Yeah, and like when I was watching that, like it wasn't until like halfway through that my dad told me that it was the same character. I think I realized like two of them were the same guy, but they're so different from each other. It's hard to recognize unless you like go into it knowing it already. But yeah, like with Clockwork Orange, that movie is fully centered around Malcolm McDowell, who is just kind of like captivating as this.
Yeah, totally. And same thing with The Shining.
He was also insane and demented. I kept forgetting that I'm not watching Caligula.
Right, but in both of those movies, The Shining and exactly what John is saying is right. If you take Jack Nicholson out of The Shining, it's nowhere near as iconic. Ditto for Clockwork Orange. I'm not even sure if the movie is any good outside of his performance. It totally makes the film, makes it this weird, like almost surrealist masterpiece. Both of them.
And The Shining also influenced Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
So you saw that, didn't you?
No, I was never really that into it.
No, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure Twin Peaks is overall pretty good based on its reputation. I just never.
What was the Caligula? Caligula's in which movie?
Malcolm McDowell.
Oh,
he played him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Malcolm McDowell.
Like one of those memorable performances, like Peter Ustinov did as Nero in Quo Vadis.
Dang, Sparky, you're just coming in with all these like movie references that I don't know.
You haven't seen Quo Vadis?
How do you even spell that?
It's about the great persecution in Rome under Nero.
Okay. Quo Vadis. Yeah, I see. This is 1951 movie?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
That's like in the one of the biblical. There was a whole series of those biblical type epics.
Yeah.
That used to be a real thing. That was like a real trend in movies.
Yeah.
You know, like a Western that you just don't see as much anymore.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's it's superhero movies. Yep. Superhero movies will have a time where they stop making Iron Man 7 in, 30 years from now. People are like, yeah, there used to be a trend in movies. They used to have Avengers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that trend will end eventually. I don't see it losing steam for the next 5 years or so.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the same idea. Like back in the 50s, that was a big box office spectacle, was a guaranteed draw, was a biblical movie because you had all the special effects and the big sets, and it was a crowd pleaser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, historical epics in general.
Yeah.
Right. That's why Kubrick did one. Spartacus is one of those type of movies. It's a 1950s 2.5 hour, sword and sandals epic. Who's Spartacus? I forget off the top of my head, actually.
He was a slave rebel who.
No, I mean who's the actor in the movie?
That's Kirk Douglas.
For some reason,
right?
I'm drawing a blank. It was.
Yeah, it's Kirk Douglas, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, wait, no. No, I'm sorry. I thought there was another one of Kirk Douglas's.
Kirk Douglas is Paths of Glory.
I thought he was in another one of Kubrick's. But Kirk Douglas is in Spartacus. Okay, and Lawrence
I think he is.
Olivier and Gene Simmons.
But like that was a big kind of action flick of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big draw. Movies like that would make the equivalent of $700 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back when, just you needed to have a good script, just because you couldn't overemphasize the special effects or anything like that. You have to actually make a good movie.
You don't make movies like that anymore.
No, unfortunately.
Well, people will be saying that about The Dark Knight 30 years from now.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing. Every time you look in the past, you're always looking at all the best movies that have actually kind of held their worth for a while. So you're not seeing
because you're only dealing with the ones that stood the test of time.
Yeah.
So you're only dealing with the ones that are actually the classics. There are thousands of junk biblical movies that I'm sure were embarrassing to watch, but you don't know that they exist because they're not still around.
Yeah.
Or maybe there were less. Maybe it took more money. I don't know. There might have been less overall because they make a lot more movies now than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Just this summer, there was something like 140 films were released. It's just like that's more than 2 or 3 movies a day.
Yeah. I think there's supposed to be like 4 Marvel movies released this year.
Right. And I see them all pretty much. I mean, I saw almost every one. I saw the Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, I like the Ant-Man. But
most of those Marvel movies are actually good, or at least close to good as movies. You know,
particularly the X-Men prequels.
I'm not even sure if I've seen them. Which ones are those? Are you talking about like
No, it's
Wolverine?
First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse.
Don't know if I've seen them. I might have.
Kind of takes place in the late 60s.
One is 60s, one is 70s, and the last one's 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I've seen them, but I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not sure. Those are like Magneto becoming Magneto, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or
back when him and Charles were friends, and then how they split up basically and became enemies, things like that.
Right. They sound familiar, but I'm not quite sure if I've seen them. I'm guessing I have, but maybe not.
And there's the really last really good one was Logan.
Yeah, that was good.
Logan was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a good movie. I mean, a lot of the Marvel movies are actually good. Some of them will be classics. The first Iron Man is actually a really good, solidly good movie.
Definitely.
So they're not, there's a whole bunch of junk ones that get made along with them, but those nobody will even know that they existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the next Wonder Woman's coming out sometime this year.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, the one where she's in the Cold War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's called like Wonder Woman 1984 or something like that.
Yeah.
So should be good.
That should be good. Yeah, that should be good.
Something like 1984, the movie.
So, what's the best Stanley Kubrick movie, John? You can say Paths of Glory. You don't have to.
I haven't seen them all, so I can't say for sure exactly.
I don't know. Is Barry Lyndon even supposed to be good? Is it? I've never seen that.
It's on his front page of IMDb list, so I guess it's at least notable.
It was up for Best Picture, I think. It's long. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something, right?
Yeah, I think so. All right. If I was to pick, like, which one of these I'd want to watch.
If you were on a desert island, you could only have one Stanley Kubrick movie to watch for the rest of your life. Which one would it be? Clockwork Orange? You might as well just... What is it?
I think Clockwork Orange probably has... I don't know if it has good rewatchability factor. I really enjoyed Doctor Strangelove. I think I could enjoy watching that multiple times. Either that or The Shining. I don't know.
Close tie between Doctor Strangelove or 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
What about Eyes Wide Shut, John? Did you forget about that?
I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut.
It's terrible. It's really terrible.
That's what I heard.
It's about what's really going on in Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would probably pick a Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange has has rewatchability, like through the roof.
Okay.
There was a time where we memorized that movie.
Yeah, that was kind of like the staple cult classic for I guess, that time period but that's like one of those posters that you see on everybody's dorm room wall, things like that.
Yeah, totally. Referencing a bunch of songs, like David Bowie songs and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, a favorite Tarantino movie.
I would say between Pulp Fiction and possibly Django Unchained.
I like Reservoir Dogs, even though it's one of his earlier ones.
I found Reservoir Dogs to be overrated.
I like the. I guess he did it with Pulp Fiction also, but I don't know. Since I watched Reservoir Dogs first, I felt like having the out of order sequencing was more, I guess, novel in that one. Whereas Pulp Fiction just kind of felt like, oh, you're doing Reservoir Dogs again.
I like Pulp Fiction. I really liked Django Unchained and Inglorious Basterds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
guys,
both those are really good.
The Hateful Eight.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I liked it. The Hateful Eight. It
was like Reservoir Dogs meets Stagecoach.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Reservoir Dogs actually wasn't all that overrated because it wasn't rated all that highly until Quentin Tarantino became fully like Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it came out, it was just like, hey, there's this cool movie from this new director that's really kind of fun, and you went and saw it, and you were like, yeah, that was pretty entertaining. Nobody was like, oh my god, this is the greatest movie ever made. You know, it wasn't rated all that high. It was just like, this is something worth checking out. This guy's talented.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of see that with several directors. Like they'll do their first movie, and then once they get like somewhat famous, get it enough to get a big budget, they'll do the better version of that movie that like has a lot more to it. And so I can kind of see that with Reservoir Dogs, where there's kind of this
right. But then why it seems like it's overrated is then you have a whole bunch of people who decide that that's the best. The first movie, Reservoir Dogs, is the best one ever, and if you don't know that, you don't really understand his work. And you got a whole bunch of posers who latch on to like.
They say that about Pulp Fiction.
What's that?
They say that about Pulp Fiction.
That which it's not as good, or it's.
No, I would say
Pulp Fiction put him on the map. I mean, Pulp Fiction was. It's hard to underestimate because it became kind of a standard idea of a Quentin Tarantino movie, but at the time it was really revolutionary. You know, the whole conversation about the Big Mac.
Another good Tarantino one is Jackie Brown.
Yeah, Jackie Brown's great. All those movies are good, but Pulp Fiction kind of. Nobody had ever seen people have like weird conversations like that in a movie, and that was just you were watching them talk about like, I don't know, man, I didn't go to Burger King. You know,
they talk about real life issues, and then they dress up, then they go in their hitman character and pop a cap in their ass.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, those two characters are just so interesting to watch, like interact with each other and just go through their lives as hitmen. So,
yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's really fun. The scene where he's about to kill the guy. For Marvin, and he's like, "Say what again? Say what again? What?" It's like when you watch
that guy that looks like Seinfeld hiding in the bathroom.
Yeah, and then like the last scene is classic with the "You're the weak, and I am the tyranny of evil men, but I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd. Go." So. Classic. But if it's built up too much, when you see the movie for the first time and you don't have any expectations, then you're like, oh my god, this is like that's the best movie ever made. And then you go, like, what's this? Why is everyone so excited about this? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what happens.
Yeah, that's probably
the first time when you watch the movie. Like my friends were like, "You gotta see this movie; it's so fun." And the first time I saw it, was like, "This is fantastic." Then it enters into the culture as, you know, the gold standard of movies.
Kind of like Scarface.
Yeah, Scarface is a blast. Scarface is really entertaining. But yeah, there's people who would insist it's the best movie ever made, and if you see it with that in mind, you won't like it. You'll be like, huh? There's a lot of problems with this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people.
But you can understand why people like it when you see it the first time because it's so crazy entertaining. His performance is so ridiculously fun.
Especially when you see the chainsaw scene in the hotel.
Right. I mean, it's a perfect analogy of Scarface because that's exactly what happened with Scarface.
Then at the end, he starts killing all those people single-handedly while he's high on cocaine.
Yes. Say hello to my little friend. And then that scene becomes, you hear it referenced everywhere, like on The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. So if you see it in the context of this is a legendary movie, sometimes you're disappointed. You're like, why is this legendary? But if you see it straight, you get it, because you think it's ridiculously entertaining too. Did you see Scarface, John, by the way? You're relatively quiet on Scarface.
No, I haven't actually. Sorry.
How the hell are you?
I'm 21. So, yeah, I think there's only a few of those gangster type movies that have really captivated me and things like that. But
well, this one it's really entertaining, but it's mostly for Al Pacino just chewing up the scenery and being fun.
I love Al Pacino doing that. Yeah.
There's a scene you haven't seen Scarface. You probably haven't seen Carlito's Way.
Nope.
Huh?
What's that one about? Is that another one similar to it?
No, it's this criminal goes into prison for 5 years, and then he tries to get out. He tries to turn a new leaf, but his criminal life keeps coming back to him.
Gotcha. Cool.
So, shall we wrap up? What's the final word?
Definitely go watch Kubrick. He still holds up, even though everybody's been saying he's held up for so long anyway. Coming from somebody that hasn't watched much Kubrick and finally going about watching some more Kubrick, I heartily recommend him.
Right, you had a Kubrick Film Festival for the stream.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, even though I wasn't able to finish all of Full Metal Jacket, that first 40 minutes is entirely captivating.
The first 40 minutes is great.
Yeah,
really intense. And then when he goes to war, it's kind of falls apart.
Full Metal Jacket ain't that bad, but the best non-movie I would think is the Deer Hunter.
Yeah, Deer Hunter's good.
Who did do Deer Hunter? Let's see.
What's his face?
Or Samuel.
Yeah, and then he did Heaven's Gate.
Oh yeah,
for a while because that was the biggest. For a while, that was the biggest disaster in movie history. But yeah, Deer Hunter's good. That's
and the best World War II movie I would say is The Great Escape, or Bridge on the River Kwai, or that one I keep forgetting, Guns of Navarone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the classic adventure flicks of World War.
The best recent one I would say is Inglorious Basterds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Yeah, watch Kubrick, Tarantino, and Scorsese.
Yeah. That's a good trifecta of directors to be stranded on a desert island with, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll work. That'll totally work. So, should we wrap it up? John, you want to tell everyone about your channel and why you put it out before we sign off?
I've got one video on my channel. I'm that's not really what I'm about, but I'm on Twitter quite a bit. I'm writer John Buck. I'm there interacting with people, stuff like that. Follow a lot of the same groups as Sparky and you, Craig. So you'll probably see me around there interacting with everybody.
And HistoryNet.
Yep.
What's the deal?
The deal is my channel. I mainly mirror videos that combats atheist propaganda, but also I do. I'll get to doing my own stuff once I reach 500 or 1,000 subscribers. But I also throw in cultural references in my channel sometimes.
Cool. Yeah,
So
I found out about David Wood through one of your mirrors that you did. I gotta look into his stuff more because like so far he seems to be like one of the best refuters of some of the new atheists I've seen.
Yeah, but sadly he's going on to do mostly refuting Muslims.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So
I've noticed that.
Acts 17 Ministries, I guess, or Acts 17 Apologetics. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look into his stuff because like the one refutation of Sam Harris is pretty good that I saw. Cool. All right. And what about you, Craig? What are your plans, man?
My plans are, build my little channel, We talk. I was hoping that what's his face would be on here because I heard he's a Pink Floyd fan. We were going to talk Pink Floyd next video, but he wasn't here.
Sorry, I had to mute you, Sparky. You're can you say it over again, Craig? Couldn't hear you. What's your plans?
My plans is work on my humble little channel till it's a big humble little channel, and then corner my little slice of the internet. I interview atheists. I have chats about movies. I was going to have a chat with Chris, I guess that's his name, about Pink Floyd because I had heard that he was a Pink Floyd fan, but he didn't show up to the stream, so don't know if that's true. And then put out my little videos where now you can see my smiling face. Does that sound good?
Awesome.
You can see my face in the videos now, John. You didn't notice?
Yeah, I've seen some of the ones you had before you had your face cam on, but yeah,
no,
now you're back.
Did I? I don't think I did. Maybe I did.
I think I saw one of them. I've seen your face before. Of course,
I've seen my
face. Yeah.
And you remembered what it looked like.
Oh yeah. Your conversation with what was it, Pine Creek? I think you had your that wasn't on your channel though.
I wasn't gonna be on have my face on his channel. He insisted that when people come on his channel, he has to be able to. I think he said, "Look into your eyes so he can see your soul" or something like that. I was like, "Wow, deep, man, that's beautiful."
That's how they steal the soul. Actually, that's an old.
John, he's trying to steal my soul with his eyes, and I didn't let him. Yes, I think he was trying to cast some evil atheist spell on me. That's probably what that was about.
I was actually surprised when you talked to like a couple of them. I can't really say their names, but they're some of the worst ones out there.
See, I think it's probably a lot to do with like how you interact with them. Because like with Craig, I think he's so agreeable. Like he can talk with anybody, really.
Yeah.
But a lot of us kind of get like too emotionally strung up with like they'll say something that is intentionally there to try to aggravate us, and then we just go off on them.
It depends on what your agenda is. If you're, I mean, I used to pride myself prior to doing this on being able to interact with anybody. Honestly, in high school and college, I used to pride myself on being able to just meet people at a bar, meet people wherever, and get along with them. But the key is with someone who disagrees with you is that you can't take the bait. If they throw down something guaranteed to start a rumble, you just don't, you pretend like you just move on from it. Because if you take the bait, then you're in a quarrel. That's really the
good advice. Yeah.
Well,
Thanks,
sometimes the agenda is to debate or challenge the opinion, or I don't find that all that useful. Maybe it is in a context of I'm not against it in its proper context, like having a formal, let's discuss this from opposing points of view. But I don't think it's useful in conversation necessarily, because it tends to turn into a quarrel. I don't know. Maybe not. What do you think?
Yeah, and there's
what do you think, John? Or go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, John, go first.
Yeah. I think you're right. A lot of the times these conversations are put forward in such a like expecting some sort of like drag out debate. Like there's got to be a winner and a loser somewhere. But there's a definite need for figuring out a way to actually host honest conversations that isn't just, like scoring points and things like that against the other side.
Process. Because a lot of times the things that are the throwing down the gauntlet to start a debate, I mean, you can even predict if you got a Christian against an atheist. It's pointless to the degree that you can almost predict word for word what's going to be said on either side of the issue. So it's not, it's not really doing anything other than scoring points.
Every time an atheist says a meme, like one of their memes, I post a picture of an NPC and leave it at that.
Yeah. Like
of a what?
Like,
of an NPC?
Yeah, the NPC meme. Those gray cartoon characters that are blank faced and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's the it's definitely it's appropriate in some contexts. Like on James's show, whether it's a debate or it's more structured, but it's not necessarily something I want to do. When I'm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess I'm surprised with like how people have been able to like create bridges through that kind of like argumentative pathway, because like there's people like a lot of people are fans with or have interacted like in kind of debate-ish forms with Shannon Q, but I think Shannon Q is just probably like just so probably open with a lot of people that she's able to interact with him pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, she's got a baseline mellow personality that she likes to engage people to debate and challenge, but she's got such a baseline like mellow. She kind of reminds me of my mom in this sense. My mom was always in people's faces too, but she was so underneath pleasant that nobody ever got annoyed by it. She was such a agreeable personality that nobody ever seemed to notice that she was, basically debating or arguing all the time.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it is with Shannon.
Yeah.
Kind of how it is. Stephanie's getting there. People are starting to see that underlying non-confrontational person. I guess.
Twitter village atheist still hate her.
Yeah, I think Stephanie is kind of like one of those Christians that all the atheists love to hate on.
Oh, they totally love to hate. But I mean, when you see her in an actual debate, it's not usually very contentious. When she's, actually disagreeing with people, it usually goes pretty smoothly. And you'll see atheists go, she's nice. She's just wrong about everything. She's pretty nice, though.
Yeah, they just really get under their skins for some reason.
What's that?
She really gets under their skins for some reason.
Yeah. I think it's because of like how, I don't know, always happy she seems to be. Like, no matter, like, every comment that she makes on Twitter, pretty much there's going to be like 3 or 4 anti-theists that are just disparaging of her. And like, it never seems to really faze her at all. Like, she's got a real strong, joyous character about her. That probably pisses them off.
Even the level-headed ones are pissed off at her for some reason.
Well, so there's 2 reasons. One is like the reason they always get pissed at Jonathan Stewart, Jordan Peterson, because
because Jordan Peterson shows the absurdities of atheism as well as making topics more relatable for people and spits in the face of political correctness.
Well, so with Stephanie, it's twofold. One, some people don't like her because her way is agreeable and hence more effective, and they recognize that on some level. But then 2, she sometimes steps out of character and will tweet something controversial that she never lives down. For like 5 months later, people like, that one time she tweeted this one thing about atheism that was controversial, so they never let go of it. So it's twofold. It's not dissimilar to Jordan Peterson. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but it makes sense to me.
No, Jordan Peterson's actually a threat to the so-called the quote-unquote skeptics, and they collectively wage war on him, like they did with William Lane Craig years back.
Yeah, I think the skeptics realize just how effective Peterson is at bringing in the more intellectual people that were not as aggressive as the common like anti-theists on YouTube. And so like Mouthy Buddha, he did a video like talking about how it seems like a lot of Sam Harris's fans have migrated over into being Peterson fans. And they recognize him as that threat, and so that kind of pisses them off.
Totally. Well, it's not a threat so much as a transformation. I mean, if you go look at his website, go scour the comment sections. He's got 1,800,000 subscribers now. Back when I first started talking about him, was telling atheists to watch his videos because I thought they'd find them a lot more interesting and relatable. They get him more than like a William Lane Craig. So I was saying, you got to check this guy out. He had like 400,000 subscribers. And then you see the comments and you see, I used to be an atheist, but because he bridges the gap between the scientifically minded person and the person of faith.
Then you got the level-headed, atheists who know that anti-theism is bullshit and always lying about history and Christian history and stuff like that, like Tim O'Neill and them.
Yeah, Tim O'Neill's great. Yeah, and there's quite a few of those good ones. Like there's like a good in biology. There's David Sloan Wilson who like looks at everything through an evolutionary lens and sees the like kind of requirements for religion within group structuring. It's kind of like with him and Jonathan Haidt. They're really fascinating.
Oh, speaking of which, when are you going to have a Friend of Forever back on your channel again?
Yeah,
soon. I actually was. Yeah, I'd do that. Do just an interview with him. Yeah, it's been a while actually. It's been almost since August since the last time he was here.
Then there's him and Josh Bowen, who's actually agnostic and his wife's Christian, but.
Oh, Digital Hammurabi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's kind of this divide that's still occurring between like the atheists that are followers of Jordan Peterson, and then there's the atheists that are more like followers of Tim O'Neill or those types of figures that are looking at things from a true history type, like standard historical framework.
Right.
And then there's looking at religion through a like psychological framework, and it's hard to really exactly bridge those two perspectives on religion, I think.
Well, what Tim O'Neill, I don't actually know. What's the deal there? It's
historyforatheists.com. You should have him on your channel one day.
Yeah, I'll have him on. That sounds cool. What's his deal though?
He completely obliterates mythicism. Jesus mythicism and the so-called myths about Christian history, about like the Dark Ages and stuff like that.
Yeah, like there's a kind of common trope of atheists talking about how Galileo was persecuted by the Catholic Church. And then, Tim O'Neill, he has his blog that kind of goes over every time a different public atheist kind of goes into one of these kind of misnomers. Like what Sam Harris's book, The End of Faith, is just basically filled with these types of historical misreadings and inaccuracies.
Yeah, and there's also a book about that by a boredom painter called The New Atheist Denial of History, where he documents the faults of Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and many of the pop atheists all in one, and shows how they lie about history, or if they're not lying about history, they get it wrong anyway.
Yeah, a couple of times, like when I see on Twitter like a certain anti-theist going on one of these things, sometimes I'll just like tag one of them, like either him or a biblical history skeptic, and then like they just kind of go to town against the other anti-theists. So that's pretty fun.
So is Tim O'Neill actually talk about Sam Harris's book, or is Tim O'Neill just in general?
No, he talks about him in a blog entry in his debate with Ben Shapiro, where he thoroughly points out the his mistakes regarding the so-called Dark Ages.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So he's about debunking the mythology of like religion as persecutor of scientists and things like that.
Yeah. I sent a link to his site in the side comments.
Yeah, there's this a graph kind of making the rounds on anti-theist Twitter earlier about like the gap where we would be if the Dark Ages never happened, like in the rise of scientific discovery and things like that.
He chewed out dark matter recently.
Yeah, it was great to watch. But,
Dark Matter is the cartoon guy.
Yeah, it's one of those cartoons you lose brain cells watching, and his low IQ fans actually think he's relevant. They actually think he has good arguments, but he doesn't. He just strawmans the shit out of the Bible and Christian Muslim history and all that.
Mhm.
What's the Tim O'Neill thing with him? Tim O'Neill and him are debating, or
no, he chewed him out on Twitter recently on the comments, talking about the so-called Dark Ages and art, and how art has decreased because of the big bad Christians and all that. It's crap.
Yeah. All right.
All right, kids. So you heard it here. Tim O'Neill, go check him out. And he'll school you straight. You think Christianity has been persecuting scientists? Well, we haven't. We haven't. You are mistaken. Tim O'Neill will set you straight. We were building science. We were building science books when you guys were, I don't know. What were we doing, John? We were Christianity.
Back when Hume was doubting causality, the Christian scientists were discovering genetic inheritance.
Yes, we were setting the world on fire with our scientific brilliance. And if you haven't heard Tim O'Neill, you wouldn't know that, because the slander against the Christian community has been so deep and complete. So he's debunking it. Go look him up.
Yep.
All right, so let's sign off, kids. It was a good chat. We'll try and next time we'll do Spielberg, but we'll get the actual biblical history guy. And there was another Christian who mentioned he might want to be involved. So, Say goodnight, kids.
Good night, kids.